Welcome back to another episode of Suckcessfull, the podcast.
I'm one of your hosts, Blake, and joining me,
I'm one of your other hosts, Justin.
And this is the podcast all about the not so subtle truth about success and
the art of sucking less in pursuit of it. Let's not waste any more time and get right to the show.
So, Justin, I'm pretty sure that you are wearing your headphones, but because of your jacket, it looks like earmuffs.
Holy crap. I'm looking at myself in there. It totally does. You're right. It looks like, I gotta admit here, I feel like I look like a cartoon character here because like I'm very bold colors. I'm wearing a blue jacket, red headphones, white hair. I feel like this could be like a comic book kind of thing. So yes. And these actually have like little pads on them. So it looks, yes, they look like earmuffs. Yeah. I don't need them though. Like I can take them off.
I was going to say when you first came on right before we were recording, it's like, man, he must be somewhere really cold. And then I realized that you were wearing your headphones today.
Yeah, I got to tell you, if I have to record somewhere that I have to wear earmuffs, we're not recording and I shouldn't be there. I'm getting on a plane back home. That's what's happening.
Well, you went to Alaska that one time.
Yeah, but that was during the summer though. See, that was like,
is it warm during the summer? I thought it was still like freezing.
It's weird. So Alaska is like a hot day. Like I actually sweated this first full day we were there because we were hiking and it was sunny, but it was 74. That was like super hot.
Huh.
So
okay.
it gets reasonable. I mean, there were certain days like we were in a place called Seaward, which is on the coast, whatever, and it was literally rainy every day and it was like 50s. So yes, I mean, it's not like short sleeve weather. You know, you got to be insane, but it's not like frozen like you picture it. It's got a good variation in the summer.
Oh, that's nice. I always thought it was freezing all the time.
Parts of it are, but it's so weird. Like, because even when you go to Alaska, you just like, you don't realize how big it is. Because like the southern part, it's almost the entire West Coast in length. If you
really?
It's that big.
Wow.
It's a third the size of the United States. It's basically India is the size of like, that's how big it is. And so
they do not do good on the maps with that because it's always like this little
piece way up in the top, up in the corner. No, it's huge. And so like when you're in the southern part, it's kind of like Seattle-ish weather. It's like they actually don't get a ton of snow. It's very mild and it's still close to the Arctic, circle. But then you go up to like, I think it's Nome or whatever the top city is. Yeah, they have snow year round. So it is very weird. But then you look at a map, like when you're there and you see on a dot and you're here and you're like, well, I need to get to there. And you're like, that's 10 hours. 10 hours is just that far. And you're like, oh, well, because it's a huge state.
That's cool. I didn't know that. I got to go back to geography class.
Well, like most things with the show, you just learn so much. You learn about geography. You're about to learn how to have fun on your vacation. And more importantly, you get us as hosts. So it's a trifecta of awesome is what I call it.
Love that. What did you say before? Blown away by awesomeness or something, or there was like something specific you said. And I was like, we should make this a t-shirt, whatever that was.
It was last episode. It was, I think that was a bomb of awesomeness. I think that's what it was. But we got to be careful, in today's world with a couple wars going on, you got to be careful how you use the word bomb. I'm afraid like True. We're being monitored right now. I'm sure like the NSA is like,
probably
they've said bomb how many times? Oh, crap. Yes.
On a kind of side note here, though, since we're talking about vacations, did you see Leave the World Behind yet with, oh my gosh, what's her name? Julia Roberts. There we go. Did you see that movie yet?
No, I want to. It's on the list. I have not seen it. What did you think?
I really like it. I wish there was more explanation, but it is psychologically terrifying.
Really?
Yeah, it like weirded me out. I had to watch something else afterwards because I was like, that's disturbing with what's going on right now.
One of those, huh?
It's one of those. It's very like topical, kind of like, I don't know, Bird Box was a little bit like that for me as well when I first watched it, just because of when it came out and everything that was going on. But it was really good. I was very surprised to see her in like something leaning towards a horror movie.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever seen her in a horror movie before. Have you?
Pretty Woman. I'm just kidding. No, I don't think she's ever, she's done a lot of dramas and like suspense, but I can't think of a single, no. But so you recommend it though? Is it worth, or is it one of those things that I'm going to have to like?
No, it's definitely worth it. And when you watch it, we should discuss because it's one of those you want to talk about it kind of movies.
Okay. On a side note here, since we're just talking movies, as we get into our subject here today, I got to tell you, I saw a movie the other day. I had never seen it before. I had heard it. It's from the 50s. It was just so weird because it's been preached to me probably once a year forever. And people say it's like the greatest movie. You got to watch it. You got to watch it. So finally, my son wants to be a director. So I was like, it's a great time to introduce him to black and white film. Let's do this. So it's called Some Like It Hot with Marilyn Monroe and Jack Lemmon and a bunch of other people in it. And it is, I don't know how to say it. It's pretty much a flawless movie. It is so good. It is hilarious. In the last line of the movie, so like it's hard to do a comedy that has all bits to it. This movie ends so perfectly. And the line they end it on, because especially you're a writer, you know how hard it is to end things. This ends it perfectly. And the line is quoted all the time. It's like one of those really famous lines. So all I'll say is that it's just so much fun. It is a great romp. It doesn't demean any characters. It deals with subject matter that is timeless. I mean, it was recorded in 1959. It was when it was released, but it takes place in 1929. It kind of goes back in time a little bit here. And the stuff they talk about, what they do, I don't want to say anything else. All I'm going to say is they could have filmed it today. It's that crazy. It's so funny. It is so insane. It's so clever. I was blown away. I had no expectations because I was like, there's no way it's that good. It is that good. And it truly is from a movie standpoint. The reason it's I would consider it like a flawless movie is it's timeless. It's got a great story. There's comedy throughout. The people that are in it, all like the casting is so well done. There's just so many good pieces to this. And I don't know, I just loved it. So it was just a very interesting movie to me because very rarely do I walk away going, this was amazing. It is a really feel good movie and it is really funny and clever though. It's really clever. It's when you see the premise, you're going to go, this is stupid. It's not. Like, it really is good. It really is funny. And there's so many subtleties to it. The cool part for me is like, 'cause you're a big film buff, seeing it, there's so many things that they took from this movie. There's so many like camera things that you do. There's so many like little nuances. You're like, that's where that came from. Like, it's just fun to see it. If you're a videophile, like if you love this stuff, it is a great for a film lover. And I think it's great overall. My son loved it, but it's a great movie.
I'll have to watch it. I've seen almost every single Audrey Hepburn movie, but I've never seen any of the Marilyn Monroe or James Dean movies.
So I'd never seen a Marilyn Monroe either. This was first for me. This is apparently her best. She makes fun of herself a lot in it, which is really fun. And I don't know. She's great in it. This Jack Lemmon, I don't know if you're a Jack Lemmon fan at all, but this is probably one of the funniest roles he's ever done. It's got someone else in it really famous. Anyways, it's definitely not Audrey Hepburn. Okay, so don't go in expecting any of that stuff. It's good, but it's not a drama kind of thing. Audrey Hepburn is not really a comedic actress.
No. She's funny when she's not trying to be funny because she's like cute.
Yes, exactly. So if you're looking for something, this is my recommendation to you because it's, especially as we get ready to go on vacation here, maybe this is a good segue. When you need a release of some kind, I'm actually going to watch it again because it was so unexpected. I was just blown away because a buddy of mine was like, you have to watch this. I'm like, oh, all right. And it was on HBO Max or whatever. I start watching it and I'll tell you, the opening scene is not funny. There's nothing funny for about 20 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
And so I started watching this. I'm like, what is this? This is not funny. And then you start getting it and you're like, I get what they're doing here. It's so intelligent. Like it's really, again, I don't want to say anything else because if you hate it, then you're going to be like, I've wasted my time. But it really is a fun journey to go on. And again, it's a feel good movie. So it's like one of those movies that you feel good after it. The last minute, it's so hilarious. It is the stupidest, funniest, and to pull it off, like if you like a good comedy, to play off what they're playing and make it work is close to impossible. You have to have like the perfect cast, the great delivery. You have to have it all. And they nail in a minute something. I can't imagine how many takes it took because you'll see it and you'll go, was that one take? How did you do that? Anyone who loves comedy, who ever done sketch comedy or written a comedy, you have to see this.
That's awesome. I'll have to definitely watch it then because I like a lot of the older movies, not even just because I'm in film, but just because I enjoy them. Like I loved Citizen Kane, which everybody in film school was like, oh, we had to sit through that one. So I don't know. I grew up watching Audrey Hepburn. So
well, knowing your mom, I can see that. This, again, when you see this, you cannot believe this came out in 1959. You just can't. Like,
is it very forward thinking or what do you mean? Or is it just before its time type of thing?
I don't know if it's forward thinking, but the subject matter is so taboo for the 50s. You can't, I would assume everyone went to jail after they filmed it. It's that taboo.
Wow.
In 1950s America, and the movie did so well in the box office. Like it was a huge hit and it still is. It obviously resonates with people, but when you watch it, like that's also part of it. Like again, it could be filmed today and would have probably still the same reaction.
Oh, wow. I will definitely have to watch it and then we'll discuss. And you have to watch Leave the World Behind.
I honestly, it's on my list. I want to watch it. I watched the trailer and I was like, what's going on here? It threw me for a loop. So you're the first person I've talked to who's seen it, but you've got great taste. I'll check it out.
I will say that if any of you are the type of person who doesn't like to be in that reaction, like what the fuck is going on through a whole movie, don't watch it. You will be so aggravated. But it's really good. It's different than a lot of the movies in its category. It takes a completely different take and different look on things. So that part is nice because a lot of the movies in that genre are kind of like really predictable. You know, it's kind of the same beats every time, different monster, different bad guy, but same thing. This was actually surprising for me.
Well, let's tackle this for a second here then. So I'm going to ask you a question here because since we're talking about vacation and how to enjoy it, one of my favorite things to do is actually I love watching movies. So it's the holiday season. What are some of your go-tos, the ones that you love the most?
We always go to Christmas Vacation because that's a classic, and we quote almost all of it throughout the entire from Thanksgiving all the way through. Then there's Elf, which we did actually do all the things that he does in the movie once, you know, like riding the escalator and like running around in circle on the thing. We did that once in the city at the mall and everyone was laughing. And we actually one year want to actually dress up as elves and do it just because it'll make people laugh. And I've never seen anybody do that. I don't know why nobody's ever done it. Somebody needs to do it. So we were like, we're going to do it one year. All of us are going to dress up and we're just going to go like to the biggest mall and go do all that stuff and just be goofy about it.
That would be amazing. I can't believe I've never thought of that.
Oh, people were laughing so hard the one year that we did like the escalator and all that because there were like I think it was all of us. It was me, my mom, and my two sisters, I think. So we just did it like one after another. So the entire escalator was just like all of us.
That's amazing. That's so much fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's watching, try to get on. See, the only one that I would not want to recreate in that movie is the raccoon scene. So, you know.
Oh, yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
You're a mean raccoon.
And of course we wouldn't eat the gum off of the subway. I really hope. I'm terrified to look it up because I don't want to know if it's like I don't want to know if he actually did it because I know the scene where he puts all that nasty stuff in the spaghetti and he eats it. He obviously did actually do that, but he had to do that take so many times that they had like a bucket. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't want to know if they actually cleaned the thing and put the gum there or if he actually did that. I don't know.
I forgot about that scene. And the way he does it so casually, like, gum, you know, you're like, oh.
Yeah, he's like.
Well, so the other day, Bailey was making waffles and she was opening Eggos and a bunch fell on the floor. She like looked at him for a while and she's like, huh. And she puts the others back and just left them on the floor. And I'm like, Bailey, pick those up. You can't just leave those on the ground. She's like, well, they're bad. I'm like, they'll burn off. They'll be fine. And so I made her eat some of them, not all of them, but I was like, it's in the toaster. You'll be fine because it got cooked off. That's my analogy. It's been 5 days. She's fine.
Oh, see, I'm that person that if it falls, there's nope. I don't care if okay. I had a grandfather who would drop the steak outside and be like, oh, it'll be fine and puts it on the grill. No, that's nope. None of that stuff.
See, I grew up in a very strong German household, and they're very much like you. Okay, your family, it sounds like, where like it's cooked enough. I'm like, I want it dead. I don't want blood anywhere. I want it dead. And if things fall on the floor, I'm not going to eat it. My mom used to get so mad at me if I dropped a carrot or whatever. I'm like, I'm not going to eat it. Like I'm the exact same way as you. But my family, like my brother, he's a doctor, and he'll like. I saw him. We were in Denver this year. And we were in a public space. Okay, we were at a restaurant, and he was feeding his son, and it was a pancake, and it fell on the seat of a public. And I'm like, that's where everyone's butts go. And he just picked it up and stuck it right in his mouth. I was like, oh,
that's nasty.
And everyone else looked at me. Kelly has common sense. She was like, that is gross. But everyone else was like, what are you worried about? I'm like, that's someone's butt. It's not like you're like. It's not like that's gross. And it's not like it's a good butt. It's a gross butt, most likely. So
no, yeah. And having worked even in fine dining, they usually don't wipe the seats down, just so everybody knows.
No.
You're lucky if they wipe the tables down. The other day we went to a restaurant and literally every single table was dirty.
I hate it when they're like that sticky too, and you're like,
mm-hmm. Oh, we left. I was like, nope. Nope.
So my kids, so my daughter had a competition last weekend, or maybe it was the weekend before, whatever it was, in Dallas for cheer. So they stayed in a hotel and when you stay in a hotel, that's the only way my kids see commercials because we stream everything. So they had an advertisement for IHOP in there that IHOP has holiday pancakes. And they're like red and green and everything. And they're like, can we go? And I'm like, I have two things on my list that I don't go to. I don't go to IHOP and I don't go to Waffle House. Okay, those are just two things. Like
Waffle House is gross. Ugh.
That's my point. Like it's just, I'm sorry, kids. And they keep going. Like, let's go to IHOP. I'm like, you know what? No one needs diarrhea today. Yeah.
I definitely embrace my Korean heritage when it comes to breakfast. I do not like American breakfast food really at all. I don't really like pancakes or sausage or any of that stuff. I don't like sweet in the morning. I don't know why that's a thing. I'm more likely to eat a salad.
So I do that sometimes when people think I'm weird, but I actually don't know. I've never been to Korea. I'm assuming you don't eat kimchi for breakfast, but I'm like, what's a typical, I don't know, like eggs, maybe? I don't know.
Actually, sometimes they do. Yeah, they'll eat eggs or they eat like this particular type of sushi that's, I forget what's all in it. It's been a long time. I haven't had it since I was in LA because there's barely any Korean stuff here. Yeah, they have like these sushi rolls, but honestly, a lot of their food is like what Americans would consider to be more like lunch or dinner in breakfast. Like it's not, I mean, they'll eat rice and meat and soup and all sorts of stuff for breakfast, but they do eat a lot of salad for breakfast. So I never knew where that came from until more recently. That must be where that comes from because my mom definitely does not do that.
See, I'm more of a health nut, as you know, so that would be something I have done that in the past. And my kids, so I'll make them like a Belgian waffle or whatever, and they get all upset because it's a quote unquote healthy Belgian waffle, because I like make the batter for it. I don't use like pre-made stuff, so I'll add a little bit of protein powder and stuff. And they always like, Dad, are you making healthy pancakes? Or I mean, waffles are good waffles. I'm always like, how about you just be grateful you got waffles? Like, what happened to just eating waffles? I'm like, you still get syrup. Because like my pet peeve when I was a kid, I never got maple syrup. My mom would never buy maple syrup. She's like, it's too expensive. It's too expensive. So we ate Log Cabin and maybe sometimes Aunt Jemima. I don't even know if that's a brand still, but those were the two brands we always got. And I remember because they look so good in commercials. I remember the first time I had real maple syrup, I almost drank the entire thing and puked. I was like the greatest thing I'd ever had. So today, all we have in our house is maple syrup. Thank you, Mom. First of all, for that, because I would have probably never gone that route. But now, because of this, like my kids have never had Log Cabin or anything. Like they've only had the real stuff. And it's not that much more expensive. And it's so much more better for you.
And it tastes completely different. I don't know how people eat like peanut butter that's not organic. I don't get it. It's so nasty. It literally makes me sick. I cannot eat it.
Peanut butter to me, so I agree with you. Peanut butter is interesting because most of it, though, is fairly simple. Like it's all the way across. It's not usually that processed. It's got a little bit of sugar, that kind of thing. I like organic. I agree with you. But the thing I've gotten into recently is actually sunflower seed butter. It's called like sun butter or something. It is like the greatest thing I've ever had. It is so good. I saw it in the store the other day. It's a company called Sun Butter, and the kids are picking at it. And I'm like, I had never even occurred to me there was such a thing. And it was right in the bottom shelf below it. I pulled up and look at it. It has almost the same nutritional stuff. It's organic. It's everything else. I was like, sure, I'll try it. It is fantastic. And the flavor is so rich. It is great.
I'll have to try that because I like almond butter and I like cashew butter. I've never had sunflower or sun butter. So. But that's what they cook. Because everybody on the West Coast, because nobody on the East Coast knows probably what I'm talking about. But the fries that you get from, oh my gosh, I just forgot the name of it. It's the burger place in California.
Fat Burger?
No.
Oh, you mean, In-N-Out.
In-N-Out. There we go. In-N-Out. Yeah, the fries from In-N-Out, they cook them in sunflower oil. That's why they taste completely different than anybody else. So that's what it is.
Wow. Well, I got to tell you, I'm converted and I love it. And I swear, like, it is so damn tasty. It's got such a great texture in it. And it doesn't, so like, I like to put it on toast and it melts almost like butter.
Oh.
So it really gets in all the crevices and everything. It's really cool. Like it's incredibly healthy and it's got everything in it you need. And I don't know. So that's kind of my fun fact. So that's one of those things that a random discovery that I just did and I freaking love it.
Oh, that's cool. I'll have to try that. I'm excited. I will tell you though. So I have a friend when he goes on vacation, like it's hard for us to vacation together because he does not sleep. Like he wants to do every single thing, pack as much time in there as he can. And then he comes back exhausted and passes out for like 3 days. I don't know how, like, I'm one of those people who I'm going to do all the stuff and I'll designate time for different things. But there's days I just like want to sleep or rest or do what I call slugging, which is sitting and doing nothing, watching TV or literally doing nothing. Especially when I go to California, I love just sitting and looking at the scenery. So I'll go up to Runyon and I'll just like sit and I'll like look at the city and watch the city, or I'll go do something at night where I can do that. And that's one of my favorite things to do. And actually, when I first moved to Los Angeles, fun fact, this is a funny story. All the helicopters were flying around and I had an apartment that was on the second or third floor. So I was sitting on the fire escape and we had like the perfect view of downtown. And there were all these helicopters like, oh, this is so cool. I was talking to somebody on the phone. And I was like, they look like little fireflies. And he was like, you do realize that all those helicopters are looking for people who like did something, right? I was like, what? Yep. That's kind of accurate, actually.
See, Kelly gets really annoyed with me because I'm like a hybrid of both those is the way I would describe it. So what's the best way to say this? I love to maximize the opportunity when there, but I love to sleep as well. I think sleep is so important. It's weird. Like I'll get up at about 6 and try to cram in that day to like 8 p.m. and then I just pass out. And she is much more of the, like you, like, hey, let's go to Rain. Let's observe the city. Let's go to the beach and hang out. And I'm like, okay, let's do the beach. And then after we're at the beach, let's go here. And I think that there's a good balance to those things, right? And I think that as I get older, like we're going to go to New Orleans for Christmas this year. So I'm going to handle it differently. I'm not going to push as hard and see what happens. But I struggle with that. I'm not going to lie. That's something that I don't do well.
See, I used to do that where I would cram things and then I didn't enjoy it as much because I felt rushed. I wasn't fully present. And then I was tired on top of that. And when I get tired, I become a bitch. I get very grouchy. I am very I have no patience and it's just not, I have to sleep. My siblings, to put it in perspective, used to be terrified to wake me up because I would scream at them. I'd be like, get out.
See, it's funny because I was taking a note on this right now because I want to make sure I hit on this because I was about to say almost something similar. I was the opposite. So I was the person that woke up my brother because I'm the oldest in my family. My younger brother he could sleep till like 2 p.m. if he wanted to. And I can't. My body it's just a go, go, go thing. I would usually go in and wake him up around 7 a.m. and he would be like, get out, and he chased me out. And it was so funny because he's always in his boxer shorts and I'd pants him and he'd be like, oh, like running around the house naked. It was one of the funniest things ever. Mom's like, God damn it, Steve, why are you naked again? And he's like, jumped it, it was awesome. It's stuff like that I think that's what vacation is for. Like, I remember my mom, we would get ready to go on Christmas vacation because like today's the last day at school for my kids. It's a half day today. Yesterday I was volunteering at the school. And if you volunteer there and they do like class parties or whatever, you could technically take your kid home afterwards. All of us that volunteered were like, no, we are keeping our kids in full time. Because it's 2.5 weeks. You got to entertain them, right? It was funny because as a kid, I was like, Mom, take me out early. And now I appreciate why she didn't. It's not because she was a bad parent, it's because keeping kids occupied for 2.5 weeks is a lot of work. At least my kids are. They are great, beautiful kids. They are not, hey, let's sit and read book kids. They are, it's 7 a.m., Dad. What are we doing today?
Okay. I was going to say, I didn't grow up like that. So it's interesting because as I've gotten older, I have a lot of friends that talk about these things and I don't have kids. But my mom never was like that. But I also was that kid who always had a book or 3. Actually, I used to have a giant bag that I carried with me through middle school and high school because I had at least 3 books with me all the time and at least 2 notebooks because if I wasn't reading, I was writing. So I guess it kind of preoccupied myself a lot, whereas kids nowadays have very low attention spans. I know your kids are probably better because you limit the amount of media and stuff that they can consume. But I mean, some of these kids don't even know how to play anymore.
No, so I think it's so important. This is probably going to make me not meet your goal there or expectation, I guess, so Seth had the flu last week, the legit flu, and had to go on Tamiflu and everything. And he was telling me yesterday, he's like, Dad, I was scrolling through YouTube and it said you've reached the end. It needed a refresh. I'm like, Seth, how long were you watching YouTube? He's like, about 7 hours. I'm like, 7 hours. So I took it immediately. I was like,
wow.
7 hours. It didn't occur to me that that was going to happen because usually he gets an hour a night of, his choice. He can do whatever he wants. And I was working and everything or, doing all my stuff. And it didn't occur to me to have to go check on him. And at the end of the day, he's like, Dad, has this ever happened to you? I'm like, what? 7 hours? I'm like, dude, no electronics for 2 days. And he was so pissed. But then yesterday or today, he woke up. He's like, Dad, it was actually really nice. I just went right to bed. And after I'm like, oh, Seth. Oh, Seth. So yes, limiting screen time. And that's one of those things that like one thing, because we started off talking about movies a second ago. That's one thing that we try to do each day, though. During vacation time, like especially this time of year, we try to each pick a movie and we watch at least one every 2 days. We do that as a family kind of thing. Everything you said's a go-to for us. The only other ones, like there's one that Kelly loves that I actually really like too. It's called While You're Sleeping.
Okay, I feel like I've seen this.
It's got Sandra Bullock and basically she falls in love with the guy in a coma.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I've seen that. Yeah.
It's very cute. Bill Pullman and stuff. And then the other one, like my personal favorite, and I'm just going to admit it here, I love a good rom-com. I love Love Actually. I think Love Actually is such a fun movie.
That one sounds familiar, but I don't know if I've seen that one or not.
Blake, what is that one about today?
Well, I might have seen it, but I don't know. What is that one about again?
It's like 5 storylines, maybe 4. Anyway, so it's based in England and it's got, anyone and their mothers in this movie. Okay. And so basically it's these different lives and how they deal with this time of year. So like Liam Neeson, his wife recently died. And then there's Hugh Grant is the prime minister and he's like a hilarious prime minister. Like he just says things you should never say. He falls in love with his secretary. And so there's all these different things in there. So basically it's like this whole of, and the neat part is that their lives are like 6 degrees of separation kind of thing. And so It's just a really fun, it's not all happy, right? But it's just got these really cool storylines. I personally love it. And the opening song is still to this day one of the funniest Christmas songs I've ever heard. He gets on and he knows it's stupid. And he's just like, he keeps saying the wrong line. And he's like, fuck, God damn it. Da, da, da. It's a kid song. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Christmas. Yeah. It's hilarious. It's just fun. Like it's a great look at life for this time of year and the insanity that we all put around it. So anyway, that's what we watch. I don't watch that with the kids, and then the other go-to that we have is the Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
Okay. Yeah. We also watch Home Alone. Classic.
I just found out this year. We have watched it since Seth's birth every year. Kelly this year announced in front of the family beginning of December, we are not watching this in this house this year. I am over Home Alone. I'm like, that's not a thing. You can't be over Home Alone. Like, it's so great. And so anyways, it was a weird declaration that she's this year, she is not watching it. So that was a big moment for us.
It's funny because all the millennials are having these like aha moments with Home Alone. Apparently the parents are supposed to be at like 36. And I was like, what? And then we were watching it the other day and I was like, wait a minute. I thought it was just Buzz and Macaulay Culkin, like were the kids. And then we start watching it. We're like, wait a minute, who are all these kids and where are their parents? Because there's only 2 sets of parents. And we started realizing that apparently he has way more siblings, but that never clicked. We always thought there were like all these cousins and all these adults. But when you actually go watch it, there's only 2 pairs of adults. There's Macaulay Culkin's parents and then like yeah, right. And so we were like, where are all these kids coming from?
The crabby uncle. Yes.
Yeah. And then we figured out like one of them has just like a lot of them, like a lot of kids. It's like explained at some point in passing, but I never realized he had so many siblings. It just didn't click.
I guess I never thought about it because I guess you're right. There's his aunt and uncle that are there and his parents, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah. Everybody else is like younger, way younger. Yeah.
Well, and like you couldn't make that movie today because the way she talks to him, you'd be like, that's jail, but it was only done 30 years ago. Like, it's like when you watch Some Like It Hot, the crap that men used to do to women today would put you in jail immediately, and it's not that long ago. Like, I know the 50s seem like a long time ago, but in reality, that's 60 years ago, 70 years ago, depending on, the year. Like, in the scheme of things, that's not that long ago. We've come a long way fairly quickly. But like when she, sends him to the upstairs in Home Alone, the way she talks to him, well, maybe you won't have any, like, I'm glad. And I'm like, that's not good parenting. But it works for the movie. I love it. It works.
Well, it's just like in the second one when they're at the police station and the police are asking questions and they're like cracking jokes about how they left him last year. Like if you left your kid, you would be in so much trouble. There would be child protective services and all this stuff getting involved. Like,
well, and also like the second one, I mean, they obviously do not like cops very much. They're all eating donuts every scene, and they're passing it back and forth. It is really funny. Marge, for you, okay, like it is really funny. But if you call 911, I would hope there was a little bit more urgency there. I don't know, but it works as a movie, but in reality, not so much.
No, and actually there's a lot of moments like that. Like I've realized in some of those old movies now, it's like that would never happen like that.
Well, so you mentioned Christmas Vacation a second ago. My personal favorite, I don't think I'm exaggerating, probably watch it 5-6 times a year. Like I just love that movie. That scene right at the beginning when they launch the car and then it lands. There's no way they drove out of there. Like there's no way that the sleigh was operational. Like there's just no way. And they never bring it up again. Like everything's fine. There's a little bit of hubcap movement, but that's about it. And I'm like, okay, that's not like, that's just, you can't do that. Because I remember as a kid, I was like, Dad, can we try that? He was like, no, we can't. No.
That's funny.
One time we were visiting my aunt and uncle, and I had just turned 17, I think. I'd had a car for about a year, and we were on Christmas vacation visiting them, and I was backing out of their driveway. It's one of those driveways that just seems to never end, and it was a dirt driveway. And so I'm like leaning over and looking out the window, behind me, and all of a sudden I hear this like thump, 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 thump. And I'm like, oh God. So I stop, and you see this little thing come rolling out. I thought it was a rock. I ran over their dog.
Wait, you ran over their dog?
Yeah, well, hang on. Everything is fine. No one got hurt. That's why I'm telling the story, okay?
Okay. I was like, why are you laughing like that?
Because the dog is totally fine, literally looks at us, shakes his head, goes, start the car, and just runs back to the house. Apparently, the dog. So what had happened is the dog was a digger. It was some kind of terrier, and it was a digger, and so it had a bunch of tunnels that it dug under the road. Apparently, I ran over one of its tunnels when it was poking its head out and just got like sucked out. And the dog, the next day, they're like, "What happened to Tim?" Or like Tim or Timmy or whatever the dog. It was like some person's name was the dog. Yeah, have you guys noticed anything with Tim? Like he won't go outside anymore. And I'm like, I don't know what happened. Like he's afraid to go outside. What happened? I'm like, I don't know. Is anything else wrong with him? They're like, no, he's totally fine. I'm like, yeah, it's probably nothing.
Oh my gosh.
And my mom, she's sitting in the passenger seat and she's like, just looks at me and she goes, did you just run over their dog? I'm like, yeah, I didn't see it. She's like, oh my God. And it lived another 7 years. Great life. Timmy, I think it was Tommy, maybe it was Tommy. Anyways, it was something. Anyways, lived a great life, lived a very long life, a very happy life. Never had anything bad happen to him. But it was just to this day one of the funniest things. So you just like, I'm like, oh God, I ruined the car. And then you just see this dog rolling out. And it shakes its head and looks at us and starts barking like, what the hell did you just do to me? It just runs back to the house.
He must have been in the tunnel or something and
it was
like he went over it.
It was more of like a truck. It was like an SUV. This is like 90s. So I don't know if they had SUVs back then, but it was like a Jeep. We rented like a Jeep up there. And so I was driving it. So it wasn't like it was close to the ground. It had a good clearance. But yeah, I mean, the dog, it was just one of the funniest things I've ever seen because he was as shocked as I was. I'm like, what the hell was that? And you could just see him going like, what the hell just happened?
Wow.
It was a show, man. It was a show.
That is
But
funny.
to me, I think that's the most important part, though, about vacations. You got to take that time to just laugh stuff off. To me, vacations are the time when I do my massive release in terms of I just want to have fun. I just want to get out and have fun. And whatever that fun is, it could honestly be reading a book one day, or it could be going out to do stuff, or it could be playing Legos with the kids, or whatever. It's something that's a release for me in some way. That is what vacation is. And that's what I always look forward to. And honestly, for me, if I have to do stuff, I'll make sure I only do it 1 hour a day. And the rest of the time is literally dedicated to the family, to myself, everything else, because I know the value of being down is so important.
Well, and we don't get as much vacation and stuff as easily anymore, especially people who work corporate jobs. Most people are too afraid to ask off of work and stuff anymore. You have to take that time while you have it and really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I was talking actually with an old colleague of mine that changed jobs about I don't know 2 years ago, and she was so funny. She's been so afraid to ask for time off that her boss is forcing her to take from the 15th. Today's the 15th, yeah. So that's from Sunday on off till the end of the year. He's like, if you answer your email, you're fired. If you answer a text I send you, you're fired. I was like, that's a good guy. Like, he seems like he did it in a really funny way. He was like, you've got to take the time. Like, I don't know why you haven't. And I've had kind of enough of it because it's like I think it was Tuesday this week or whatever. He set a meeting on there for like 15 minutes. And it was like first thing in the day. She's like, oh my God, I'm getting fired. And he sits her down. How are you doing? You know, that typical kind of like you're nervous thing. And he's like, look, I've had a lot of problems and I want to run this by you. And she's like, oh God, here it comes. And he's like, I don't know how to make it more obvious. You've got to take a break. And she's like, what? And he's like, you have to take advantage of this. And he's like, look, I will text you because I need notes on things. I will be doing stuff, but I'm telling you now, if you respond to any of this stuff, unless you have like a death or something horrible in your family and you want to let me know, aside from that, if you answer your email, do not show up in 2024. And I was like, we need more people like that in the world. That was really nice of him. And she walked out of there totally blown away. She's like, I can't believe you said that. I'm like, I can. We need more of that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's funny because when I tell people about LA, they always, are like, oh, that didn't happen. We've talked about this before in other episodes, but LA literally shuts down during certain parts of the year. I mean, especially towards the November, December, there's like nothing. Yeah, there's like nobody's in the office half the time. It's a totally different environment. And I remember the first time I went out there, I was like, I had that same, I was like, yeah, right. Because I had just been in New York. So I was like, there's no way there's a city like that. Oh, yes, there is.
Well, and so first of all, 100% agree with you. The other thing I would say to that point, though, is I think they wrapped up the SAG negotiations because break was coming up and they didn't want to work on it. That's how I think it got resolved, because they take it so seriously. And it's so important because you work so hard for really key moments that you need that release. And I remember coming back, people are excited. They're happy. They're better. I don't know. And it's just, I don't know. I love it. I think it's really important, and having that shutdown time. And again, people will say, it's LA, right? It's like this special weird place. And yes, it is a special weird place, but it doesn't mean you can't do it everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not like it's just stuck there. So I think that it's important to do all that kind of stuff.
I agree. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot wrong with LA still, just like anywhere else. But I agree that that's one of the things that is definitely a plus. That should be more of where our brains are going. Because this whole it's like false productivity is really what it is. It's like everybody wants to focus on this false productivity, but it's not actually productive.
I completely agree with you. And I think that there's actually some new studies that have come out in terms of not just productivity, but understanding, because before it was, how productive are you? It's now understanding, they're asking deeper questions. And now with the kind of the new way of thinking around this is in terms of management is they're actually dropping the word productivity and replacing it with value added. What did you value add? And that to me seems like a much more productive way to do it, because you can't say you worked 10 hours today. You need to say, what value did you bring? Like, what did you do today that added value? Very different conversation, because if you say I worked 10 hours today, it's a different measurement in so many ways. That what they found is that tends to get people to be more excited because they're aligning to something, they're shooting towards something. And so I hope that's really where we're going, because I think it's a better way of thinking, because you're tied to something. Because when you talk about productivity, it seems like a manufacturing term. My factory was up 10 hours today versus 12 or whatever it is. Things can be productive, but people, I think, add value.
I agree with that. And I think it's important to give your people that time off and that recovery time. In my opinion, if you are giving that consistently, it's more of being maintained versus always being in a deficit. Because when people are in a deficit, even if you take a week to 2 weeks off, you don't always come back recovered. Especially if you're like my friend who doesn't sleep, then you come back even more tired than you were before you left, because you didn't get any time off the rest of the year. So you're shoving in as much time as you can while you're off. So it's like this mentality of not being fully present still when you're on vacation, and not being able to fully enjoy it because there's still this rush to the finish line sort of thing.
Yeah. That's one thing that I've struggled with, though, that I don't know if there's a good answer for that, because for me, because I can relate a little bit to what your friend's saying too, is that you do need a vacation from a vacation, right? At the end of it. But it's a weird thing because you're trying to maximize your time where you're at. So I don't know if the solution is spend longer where you're going or do things differently. Like I don't know what the balance there is. Like I struggle with this. That's why I pause there for a sec because let's say like you're going somewhere that you've always wanted to go for the first time, right? Let's say you've always wanted to go to someplace in Africa and you're there. You want to milk the hell out of that opportunity and you know you're going to be exhausted afterward. But then you come back and it's a different kind of exhausted than a work exhausted, usually. So I don't know if there's a good answer to this because they're all so different and relative. And I've struggled with this personally a lot because I mean, I know that when I go on vacation, like Alaska is a great example. That was my last like kind of big hurrah one. I was exhausted when I came back because we milked every day. We did all the stuff. I don't know what the right answer for that is. That to me is a very weird question because I don't know if there is a right answer because you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Like I don't know. It's weird. I think it's a deep question that we need to zen out on.
I think it's sort of more, okay, well, let's start with the first thing is taking longer time. I don't think is the answer mainly because they've sort of done studies where it's proven that after about like a week and a half to 2 weeks, you don't actually get any more recovery or mental clarity or any of that stuff after that amount of time. It's sort of like that's the time frame is like a week to 2 weeks. But I think it's more of being able to do it more often. So I will tell you, this was a couple of years ago. I had a client where I was coming into the office a lot more because I had to shoot at their like office/studio. Even though I was like a hybrid, I was exhausted all the time because the work was like very extensive. I was essentially setting up and running multiple departments of their company for them to get their headquarters that they had just moved up off the ground. So after, I don't know how many months it was, I finally messaged her. And this is after we had already gone on vacation a couple times and even had work trips. Are you okay?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just watching. There's a bee right here. Sorry, keep going.
I was going to say, it looks like there's something flying around in front of you.
There is. I'm going to try to get it. You keep going.
Okay. I ended up at some point having to sit my boss down and be like, listen, I'm exhausted. I am not getting anything actually done because I can't focus because I've been too focused and hyperfixated on all of this for too long. I was like, I need like 1 to 2 days of just like a mental day, like take a break, go do something else. And she agreed to it. And I ended up taking that time, came back and was able to be way more productive, way more focused, all these things. But it really just, it took the 2 days. And the first day I went out of town, not like anything crazy, but I went to a city nearby and just zenned out. And then the second day I literally slept for most of the day and then I was fine. But most people can't do that because they're not in the position I was at where it's like a lot of people don't feel equal to their boss in that sense or equal to their client or whatever. They feel like they're always being dictated by the other person or they're too afraid to ask, like the person you were talking about. So I think it really is allowing your employees to take those days and sometimes even giving those days. Because RuPaul has this thing, he talked about it in his book. He says, give bitches a rest day. He's like, we should give bitches a rest day more often. Just like, it doesn't have to be a big thing. You just come in one day and say, hey, everybody leaves early. It doesn't have to be this big, like everybody takes off the whole day or whatever, but giving your people a break ends up not only giving you a break half the time, but it makes everything more productive and it makes things move more swiftly when they come back because you're giving them that renewal. But I don't think a lot of places do that or a lot of people do that. And especially in the United States where we don't prioritize mental health, it's this constant problem.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been doing some work with some London and England based companies now. And there's been 2 people that have literally taken off because the doctor said you're under too much stress and they get like a pass for 3 weeks or whatever. And already, because I talked with one of them earlier today, so much better headspace. And it's been Tuesday, so day 3, basically. Unbelievable change already. And she's like, this is going to save me. And she sees clarity and she's eventually going to leave. She doesn't like the company she's with, but she has the clarity now, the ability to do that, to plan, to do everything else. Like it's really important. So as we kind of move forward here towards the end of the year and get ready, like these are the conversations I want people to be having. Like these are the meaningful conversations that really are, okay, what are we going to do differently next year to be better to each other, to help each other and to further that relationship because you want people to stay in your company, but you also need to be producing things. What's that balance? What's that good way of doing this? And there's not one answer to this, right? It's that conversation, what works best for your business and what works best for your employees. I love the RuPaul solution. I think that's something that almost anyone can implement. It's a great thing, right? It's just simple. It doesn't you do it on the best part is probably like on a random day, like on a Tuesday, you're like, what the hell? We're doing a half day today. What? A Tuesday, because people expect it on Fridays or Thursdays or whatever. So little fun things like that, I think are really, really important. So I think the more we do this here and allow people to take vacation and allow people to have that clarity, because your example of that 2 days is powerful and it is simple. It's getting back to basics here. Because the one thing that I love about the human body is it is resilient in a lot of ways. It may be easy to stress out, but it's easy to come back too if you give it a chance to heal. One example for me is I have no idea what I did, but yesterday, and I didn't even know I had this, but I was in PE with the kids yesterday, physical education, and I went to sit like in like where your knees go underneath you like this, and so your feet go right underneath. And my right foot, it was like someone stabbed me. I was like, what happened? And somehow I caused pain, like I did something to my ankle. I was totally unaware of it, but I put it in a weird position and I've noticed it's been sore. So I must have rolled it. I must have done something to it. It's weird. But so I think it's just little things like that. When you are resting, when you're different state of mind, you find things like that, though. You find what the issues are because otherwise you're masking it over and over again. So I think that's really, really important. As we kind of wrap up here today, those are the kind of discoveries that I think vacation and just taking time for yourself gives you. And by knowing that stuff, I've noticed today it hurts. I still don't know what I did, but I know I rolled it. I did something stupid to it. But now that I know that, I can really ensure that I take care of myself, and do it the right way. And I probably would have totally missed it if I had not been in that situation. So it's kind of neat.
I agree. A lot of clarity and stuff comes in the stillness. And I think that the answer is not so much about setting specific time frames, because I think it's different for each individual employee, but having an environment where that discussion can happen without stress or worry. And then being open to the idea of, okay, you know what, whether you're the head of a department or not, it will run for at least a couple days without you. Like, that's what your team is for. And if you as a business owner, entrepreneur, or leader can't make that happen, then there's a problem.
Well, listen, Blake, I think this was really fun today. Thank you. It was a very interesting kind of wandering conversation, but it was really fun one. I think something that hopefully you guys got a lot out of this today. And you've got your homework. I've got mine of what to watch. For all of you out there, let us know what your favorites are. What do you also do to relax? What do you do to get away? How do you relax? And if you're not able to relax, what do you do when you're not able to relax? Does that sound fair?
That's a good one.
Thank you. Sometimes I hadn't had a knowledge bomb yet. I had to drop something out there.
Sometimes I get so caught up in our discussions that I forget to acknowledge the knowledge bomb, and then I go back and I put it in later. But sometimes I do that and it's awkward though, because we're talking and it's just while we're talking. I'm just
it's still funny. I like it. It always makes me giggle because I'll notice I'll be like, all right, cool, that worked. You pulled it off well. But you've had several today yourself, don't worry. And for those that can't see, she's wearing a Los Angeles, I can't see if it's a shirt or sweatshirt, but that's
it's a long
appropriate.
sleeve Los Angeles shirt.
There you go. Supporting the community. So Blake, from me to you, thank you so much. Everyone else out there, thank you.
Well, Justin, as they say, all good things must come to an end.
Alas, they must. However, this isn't the end, because next week, same time, same channel, we drop another episode.
So get excited, because we're going to be diving deeper into all the topics of the not so subtle truth about success and
the art of sucking less in the pursuit of it. So join the conversation below and don't forget to subscribe.